right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Welcome, everyone. We are back. Our topic today, we're continuing the program that we did on uh, the math of Black liberation. We changed the title just a tad today to The Ballot or the Bullet, because as I was sitting down and putting things together in place for tonight's program, that's what really came to my mind, the ballot or the bullet. And I said, oh my God, we got to discuss this, because this is what Malcolm X was talking about. And I find it to be right on time. Mm-hmm. So the ballot or the bullet. Now, Malcolm X, when he gave that, he was given an ultimatum. I would call it an ultimatum. It's either going to be this or it's going to be that. Mm-hmm. And we would have to make our decision on what it would be. And also that we needed to be a united front. Doc, when you think about the ballot or the bullet, and you put in perspective Maynard Jackson, Marion Barry, and Carl Stokes, mm-hmm. do you find that that's congruent with what Malcolm was saying with the ballot or the bullet?
Well, Malcolm's idea when he's talking about the ballot or the bullet is going to be, how are you going to resist the system? You're either going to execute a armed revolution, or you're going to have to accomplish similar change through the ballot box. And when I look at the election of Black mayors, I see it as our people in many ways trying to, and I would argue it's going to be one of our best early efforts at utilizing the ballot to honor the idea that politics is nothing but war without bloodshed. So I can clearly see us doing that. Mm-hmm. However, at the time that these men are coming into power, and we're talking about beginning with the Black Power era, and we have to remember that you're dealing with a National Black Congress, you're dealing with Leroy Jones, Amiri Baraka, the Black Arts Movement. All of these things are happening in the early 70s. So here you have a situation where these guys are really being propelled by an idea of Black solidarity, an idea of the development of what Parliament talked about, chocolate cities and vanilla suburbs. Mm-hmm. Yet at the exact same time, there's a different voice that has always resonated, and that different voice is highly nationalistic. It's highly predicated upon the idea of do for self, knowledge of self. These men, in many ways, were able to bridge those two things. That here you have, and we rarely talk about the fact that Elaine Brown and Bobby Seale, Black Panther Party, actually almost won. I want to say that Elaine Brown caused a runoff for a city council seat in Oakland. So the Panthers' trajectory was actually aimed, and we're talking about the early to mid 70s, is actually aimed at taking over American central cities like Oakland and really running them as black sites, black communal sites for our people. So what you see with Stokes, and we can't forget Richard Hatcher, Maynard Jackson in particular, and then of course Marion Barry in DC, is the use of the ballot to achieve what Malcolm is warning that we may have to use the bullet for, and that is taking over the political positions within our community and making those communities our communities.
And so, Doc, and I'm thinking about what we talked about last week, the part where we talked about that politics was the last viable means of nonviolent social change for Black people in America. And like I was saying,
But wait a minute, hold on. I got a question for you.
okay,
Are politics nonviolent?
no, politics are very violent.
Yeah, see,
But
that's
it will definitely tear you from limb to limb. You have to be very strong, and and this is why I disagree with Barack Obama's wife, Michelle.
Mhm.
When they go low, we go high. Fuck that. They go low, we go low too. And we're gonna hit you with every damn thing we got.
We going subterranean on them, huh?
Exactly. We're not gonna play no softball with your ass. No.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that no one has ever in the history of, and we can predate, before even the founding of this nation, take it back to what are the actual roots of the founding of this nation called America.
Mm-hmm.
No one since Black folk arrived in Jamestown in 1619, no one has ever taken it easy on us.
Mm-hmm.
They've always made the rules, bent the rules, interpreted the rules to serve their best interest.
Mm-hmm.
And the only appearance of Black folk having any semblance of rights was largely due to it being able to benefit that dominant group. So we don't have the luxury as a quote unquote minority group of ever refusing to go low at all. And I yield, brother.
And Doc, it's one thing, because we also talked about when Maynard, was it Maynard? I think it was Maynard, when he it was, no, it wasn't. I don't think it was Stokes. When he couldn't fire the police chief.
Yes.
But he put the black dude over the whole damn police department,
Mm-hmm.
and he fucking quit.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't take the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that there's this thought that there's not going to be any real pressure once you get into the office. They expect things to be, oh, it's all good, it's all nice, it's going to be, roses. And that's just not the reality. You got, in this modern time, you got Black people run for office, get in, win, and then quit because they pick up the phone and, nigga, I'm gonna kill you. Nigga, I'm gonna blow your house up. Click. I quit. I'm not doing this no more. I ain't got the stomach for it. The hell with it.
I mean, that's what you're saying is one of the reasons why I always caution people about speaking ill about Dr. King, because King knew that they were going to, and by they, of course, I'm talking about white folk, that they were going to blow his house up. They were going to try and kill not only him, but also the little kingettes as well. So there's a lot that has to be applauded when you're looking at a figure like a Dr. King, because he stood, that he was standing on the fire, not just in the fire. He was standing on the fire. So you can't, you can't mistake that, or you shouldn't ignore the fact that here you have a man who, for all intents and purposes, stood down people that he knew definitively were going to bring significant physical harm to his wife and to his children. There's something that has to be applauded about that.
And when did politics become, instead of the road to improving the community that you came from, and I'm just speaking on Black people, to I can get in here, I can sell out my community, and I can make big bank? When did that switch, that change?
But I don't know if it ever has been feasible, possible for Black politicians to come in and to have a noteworthy impact upon the political arena. And by noteworthy, I mean impacting Black America for the positive. I don't know, and you can go back to Shirley Chisholm. You can look at the brother who was here in Texas, Mickey Leland. You can look at who's a sister out in Cali that needs to retire now. Waters, Maxine Waters.
Maxine Waters.
Sheila Jackson Lee. They're what they I think it's set up for coalitions, and no one's really willing to join into coalition with Black politicians, including other Black politicians. And the thing that's coming across my mind right now is looking at John Conyers. And Conyers is life's work of the reparations movement. Even Black folk wouldn't, either Black politicians didn't join on with that. It's not that they're inept, but they only have one vote. And you got one vote in a sea of votes. The best that you could do, and this is sort of why I kind of pause in regards to calling for term limits. The baddest Negro in America in 1955 was Adam Clayton Powell Jr.
Right.
And the reason he was the baddest Negro in America, because he had all them women on his team, but because he had so much seniority in Congress that he was able to head the Energy Committee. That's probably the best workable strategy that we could have, is to elect someone over and over and over again till they get so much seniority that their voice carries weight. Otherwise, we just seem to be treading water in a way that's not going to make a difference for our people. I mean, you look at, and this isn't talking about his political stance or anything like that, but you look at a figure like Barack Hussein Obama. Obama couldn't be, regardless of what he wanted to be, Obama could not be the president of Black America. He was barely the president of America. He hit so much flack in regards to doing that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know if it's a conscious, I can go in here and do nothing. I think that I would like to think that the majority of them actually enter into that political office, that position, kind of naive in regards to what is doable and achievable. And when they get there, they realize that, oh, this is how this works. And they just go ahead and become kind of the big fish in a small pond of their communities. I know that's what Sheila Jackson Lee did. That's what Maxine Waters has done. That if you want some benefits or what have you, you can go ahead and get with them. I'm reminded, what I'm thinking about right now is, I was dealing with a Black arts group here in Houston. And we had started that school that I told you about, that Saturday school. And so we go to a congressperson here in Houston. I won't say her name, but she listened to what it is that we were doing. And she says, oh my God, that's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. And she picked up the phone and she called somebody. I don't know who she called, but whoever she called within the meeting didn't take us no more than 5 minutes. We walked away with over $150,000 in grant money.
Mm.
So I think that that's kind of where they make their difference, that they do have access to large funds, but they don't have the ability to move the needle like we would want them to move the needle in regards to uplifting Black folk.
Mm. Mm-mm. Wow. You know, when thinking about that Conyers bill, from what I'm looking at, it seems that the only Black ones that didn't support it were the Republican ones. Representative Burgess of Utah, he called it divisive and a punishment
You
for the
Black?
reparations bill, the Conyers HR 40.
But what I'm saying, he's Black
Yeah, he's Black
out of Utah.
out of Utah. Yep.
Damn.
Yeah. So he didn't do it. None of the Black Republicans supported HR 40. And I think
which clearly points to their loyalty is to party over race, even.
exactly. That's a bill, and even now when we look at it, the Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, he's Democrat. He doesn't support reparations. You know, he came out and they asked him about reparations. He said no. And for me,
was he in office or was he running?
Yeah, I think he was running at that time. And
well, hey, you got to get in there.
He ain't like he gonna change his mind and say, "Oh, I'll change it. I think I'm going to support it."
No, but I think that it's revealing the answers that, because you're going to have to give a general answer to appease your white constituents. And I believe that you're going to pay more attention to that based upon their percentage. What is the percentage of white voters that you have? And you're in many ways throwing what I would argue is a grenade at your own political chances by coming out very strong for something like reparations, because all your opponent is going to do, and we saw Trump do this, just sees what it is that you said that could be repackaged and delivered to white folk, and then literally turn around and simply say, look at what it is that they plan on doing. Just take a look. They're working against your best interest. So I understand that, you know, from a political standpoint, personally, and that's sort of the thing that I would like to know is, behind closed doors, what are your personal politics? And then also the question is, does that really matter when you're not standing on them strong enough that you can come out and you can support and you can really make that what it is that you do, make that your platform?
You know, I look at it and I say, I don't see how white folks can trust them, because if you're such a low down dirty dog that you can't even stand up for what's right for your own people, how in the hell can we expect for you to stand up what's right for anybody? If you can look at it and like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. That's not even something on my board. No.
I think you're reading that wrong. I think that there's a segment of America that is so dim-witted and naive that they actually believe what is said to them. There's no other explanation for the election of Donald J. Trump than you believe what he said. You must be just like an open receptacle, a vessel that will accept whatever is said to you without any critical thinking, without any thought on your end. He said that he was going to end the war in Ukraine tomorrow. He said that food prices are going to come down. He said no more wars. He said all of that. Now, if you don't have common sense, and shout out to a dude I went to Ohio State with, Jason Chambers. Jason would always say, common sense ain't all that common. You're dealing with people who don't have common sense. And you're also dealing with, there was this boxing movie called The Great White Hope that had Samuel L. Jackson. You remember that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I believe that there's a segment of white folk, a part of them, that wants to be friends with black people. Okay? They do. They want to be friends with you. But it's just a certain type of black person. A black person who is patriotic. Okay? And of course, the idea of patriotism is nothing but a euphemism for a supporter of white world supremacy. Now, if you can do that, if you can say, well, yeah, I agree with this and I blah, and you're lining up with them with, let's say, 9 out of 10 points, they're gonna welcome you in. They're gonna welcome you in. And the thing is that if I don't know if you've ever read the autobiography, James Weldon Johnson's The Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man. The premise of it is you have a wealthy guy who meets a very fair-skinned brother, and he tells him, he says, listen, I could give you the life of a white man, and I could make that life so good to you that you would never want to go back to being black. I think that when some of these people get welcomed in, that they become kind of like the ex-colored man. It's so glorious to have the privilege of whiteness. Who would turn that away after you get it? Especially when you've been, like James Cleveland used to say, I can still remember this commercial, going up the rough side of the mountain. I have a cousin, my cousin Lauren. She's a traveling respiratory therapist. And she took my Aunt Deborah out to Utah with her. I want to say it was Salt Lake, Utah. She had an assignment out there, so she took her mother with her. They take great care of my aunt, right? My aunt said this to me about Utah because I said, you went to Utah for what? She said, look here, boy. Them was the nicest white people I have ever met in my life. Okay. And my retort was that's because adding you over there didn't push them over the, that critical mass. So when it's too many black people, they change how they're gonna treat you. But that could be what occurs is that quite simply they welcome them in and say, you're a, and this is the way they say it, you're a credit to your race. Which means you're not like the other ones. You're one that can be trusted. You can. So let us give you the "We Trust You" Negro kit. Okay. Now, if you ever get in trouble, you get a ticket or whatever, this is who we want you to call because he can make that go away. And once you get that, hard to give it back up, brother. Hard to give it up. And I think that before you. Before long, you probably are convinced that you are living in a different reality. And the reality that you grew up with was not the real reality. Because really, let me ask you this honestly. Have you given white folk a chance to embrace you and to love you?
Yeah, I did. When I was growing up in high school, went to a high school that was mixed, half white, half black. Plenty of opportunity, plenty of chance. I was accepted. You know,
You had the
among
blonde
them.
shag.
No, I ain't go that far.
You go that far, okay.
Yeah, I ain't go that far. Mm-mm. No. And I was among the in crowd. But something happened when I left and went back to Philly and spent a year in Philly
See, there
and
you go.
got to know, the real issues, and how we ended up in this the way that we are. Then when I went back to Maryland to finish graduating from that high school, the whites were like, "What done happened to him? He ain't the same. He's different." Yeah, I done seen and I understand what happened.
You know,
So, yeah, my view is definitely different.
you sound like Malcolm when he went to Boston to be with his sister.
Most definitely.
When he came back,
Hmm. It ain't the same.
man, he called the N-word bothered him.
Hmm.
So if you would have stayed right where you was at, man, you'd probably be the mayor of that city.
Yeah, most definitely. Because I remember I was in I was in the ninth grade and I was teaching 11th grade history class.
See, there you go.
You know, and the teacher, Mr. Vaughn, he would always, "You're not like the rest of them."
There you go.
You're
You're a homie type of Negro.
exactly,
Sober-minded.
exactly.
You can be trusted.
Hmm. Until I got a hold of that Minister Farrakhan, and then next thing you know, what done happened to him?
I mean, call it what it
did
is.
something to him.
Call it what it is. You was radicalized. That's what it is. You were radicalized. But when you're talking about the idea of Black mayors and their ascension, it's the same thing as it always is when you're talking about politics. It's a numbers game. And so you have to begin to ask yourself, like, if you're looking at a Maynard Jackson, and each of the elections is different. I would argue that Maynard Jackson, Richard Hatcher, and Marion Barry are probably closest. Carl Stokes would be different because he's not dealing with a overwhelmingly Black city. So he's going to need some coalitions and things like that. But when you're looking at a predominantly and overwhelmingly Black city, the biggest question is quite simply, how do you get the vote out? How do you get these Black folk to buy into what it is that you plan on doing? When I was in Columbus, Ohio, as I was leaving, Michael Coleman, I'm pretty sure that's the brother's name, Michael Coleman became mayor. And he had this great big plan about revitalizing downtown. That because downtown Columbus would be dead by 5:30. There's, and they actually had a mall down there, the City Center Mall. And his thing was, I'm going, and he did it. He brought a hockey arena there. He brought the Columbus Clippers Stadium downtown, basically.
Mm.
And I had a student, I was teaching at Columbus State Community College, and I had a student who worked for his administration. And she said this. She said, well, what we're trying to do is almost a sleight of hand, because we're convincing the Black vote, which they have to get if they're going to win. He's a Black man. We're convincing the Black vote that it'll benefit us. It'll benefit them by electing Michael Coleman, fully understanding that when we talk about revitalizing downtown, she said, we say revitalize and not gentrification, because we don't want Black folk to have a suspicion that the improvements that we're going to make downtown, the first one is pushing their asses up out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So getting the vote out by any means necessary, to be honest with you. So when you're talking about, in that instance, the ballot or the bullet, the ballot is going to give some people who don't have Black interest bullets to get rid of them, and to get them, out of the way, so you can have some tax paying folk, major tax paying folk downtown. They want to
Right.
go to the hockey game. They want to hang out at the bars and clubs and things like that.
Definitely. So I took and gathered a list. Well, really asked AI for a list of what did they think. What did AI think were the top 10 mayors that could be considered nation builders
Hmm.
for Black folks? And I'll go
Black
over the list. Number one was Maynard Jackson of Atlanta. They said that Maynard Jackson is the gold standard. He used 25% mandates and city deposits to force white banks to integrate.
Mhm.
Number two, Marion Barry of DC, the jobs mayor. He created a Black middle class by expanding the city's payroll and summer youth programs. Number three, Harold Washington of Chicago. He broke the machine. He defeated one of the
The
most
dealing
powerful white, mhm, one of the most powerful white political structures in the world, Harold Washington. Number four, Carl Stokes from Cleveland, the pioneer. He proved that the ballot or the bullet theory by winning a city with a white majority. And that was something very, very big for a Black man to win a majority white city. Then we have number five, Chokwe Lumumba, Jackson, Mississippi,
Yeah.
the revolutionary. He attempted to build a solidarity economy based on Black cooperative power.
Mhm.
Six, Coleman Young, Detroit, the enforcer. He integrated the police department and stood up to the old guard with zero apologies.
Mhm.
Seven, Richard Hatcher, Gary, Indiana, the nationalist. He hosted the 1972 Black National Convention, centering Gary as the hub for Black power.
Mhm.
Eight, Tom Brady, LA,
Yeah.
Tom Bradley, LA, the
Mhm.
coalition builder. He managed massive economic engine of LA while fighting the LAPD for decades. Nine, David Dinkins, New York City,
Mhm.
the healer. He fought for social equality in the world's most complex city under extreme racial tension. And 10, Sharon Pratt Kelly,
Mhm.
DC, the accountant. She was the first woman to lead a major city focusing on physical sovereignty and reform. Would you agree with those numbers, Doc?
Well, I would agree with that list of names, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
and the descriptions that they gave them. Yeah, yeah, certainly. The only one that I would find kind of humorous is Sharon Pratt Kelly. That here you have a sister who, you know, she apparently didn't do such a great job because,
Mhm.
quite simply, we see her being removed and Marion Barry coming back into
Mhm.
into the picture, especially after having the scandal that we know that brother Marion Barry had.
Mhm. Exactly. Now, one thing that I guess that sometimes get missed
Hmm.
over because Chokwe Lumumba, he was a part of New Africa, right?
Hmm.
Right. And so by him becoming mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, which is the capital down there,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on his term?
I don't know much about his term, and what it is that he accomplished there. But when you're talking about the Republic of New Africa, I'm reminded of a brother who actually worked at Prairie View that I had the privilege of meeting one time when we had an academic conference, the Southern Conference of African American Studies Incorporated, was in it wasn't Jackson, it was Baton Rouge. We were in Baton Rouge that year, and his name is Omari Obadeli.
Mm-hmm.
And Obadeli was actually responsible for killing a cop, was involved when they raided or something like that, and Obadeli them
Mm-hmm.
opened up on him and all of that. So, but the idea of that occurring in Jackson, and Jackson is a different place. You know, I spent a night in Jackson. That was the worst night, one of the worst nights of my life. Um, but as far as what was achieved, I don't know enough about his administration to be able to tell you anything with authority about what was achieved.
Okay. Well, we'll go over just a few of his things that he did, what he tried to do, and what his clear accomplishments. He campaigned on making Jackson the most racially radical city on the planet, talking about cooperatives, universal basic income, criminal justice reform, and the deep democratic participation. He also promised basic physics fixing like infrastructure, especially the streets and water, and stabilizing city finances, improving public safety. One thing that sticks out to me, where it talks about making it the most radical city on the planet, talking about cooperatives and universal basic income, criminal justice reform. At that time, I don't really believe a lot of people were talking about a universal basic income.
Mm.
And now, you know, it's out there and it's prominently out there because people are realizing now this is where we got to go.
Yeah.
Now, that will fundamentally change how America is.
Without a doubt.
What do you see? What would that make America into? And will it be something that can honestly, with everything that's going on, that can America honestly sustain?
I don't think that it's a question of first off, yes, we can sustain it. Okay. So I don't think that it's a question of sustaining because of all of the money. I mean, you think about what we're looking at right now with Iran, and you're talking about spending billions of dollars a day. The idea of a debt and adding to that debt is not something that has ever really scared our political leaders. So that is kind of not even a non-starter in regards to that. The problem that you're going to have, though, is quite simply that economic suffering is going to exacerbate race relations at a level that I don't think that people can really begin to fathom. Richard Pryor, and you know, we're talking about Richard Pryor. So we're talking about the 1970s, 1980s. Pryor had this joke where he talked about being on relief. And he said, white folk don't believe in relief. White folk will tell you, they will look you in the face and they will tell you flat out, oh, no, I work for my money. I'm going, I'm a working man. He says, but and their job is actually to go out and fill up ditches. That's what they do. They're going to do some physical labor for their money. He says they never realize that the ditch that they're filling in, the government hired black folk to go ahead and throw the dirt out of it so they have some work to go do on the next day. So in many ways, they're not doing anything, but they have this aura, this air of superiority over everyone else that they apply at every turn that they can and every moment that they can. And it's, to be honest with you, unfortunately, it's just who they are. I think that it is etched into so many of their DNAs. And for those that it isn't, those are what I would refer to as them SDS weathermen, crazy white boys that are in many ways on the outskirts of being accepted in white society. But yeah, we are going to get to a point where there's going to be a universal income, and let's just call it what it is. It's going to be a non-stigmatized form of public assistance.
More socialism.
I mean, you live in a socialist country. What's the people's problem with accepting that you live in a socialist country? Okay, how many times do we okay, when the market crashed, remember the too big to fail?
Mm-hmm.
And Obama went ahead and allowed for them to get hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
billions of dollars.
Yeah.
What is that?
Socialism.
Because if we're talking about capitalism and you go ahead and overdraw your account, that's your problem. So make the rules the same for everybody. So if you're talking about having a situation where people are going to, for lack of a better way of looking at it, people can get bailed out. That's socialism. Okay, well, you know what do we call it when corporations are bailed out? Do you call it welfare when
Mm.
the government is paying for American companies to take their goods abroad,
Mm.
sell them, to show them at trade shows? Is that because if we're talking about the idea of laissez-faire, which is, small government not having any controls or hands upon anything, that's not our system in our society. I mean, come on, right now we're dealing with a White House that is telling their friends when to put their money in the stock market and when to pull it out. And we're supposed to believe that this is not, a rigged system in society and what have you. Is that socialism? No, I don't look at it necessarily as socialism. I look at it as suppressing the idea of domestic revolution. Because one thing that American history will teach you is that white folk do not suffer in silence. You're gonna feel them, and you gonna feel them in a way that's beyond words.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what the very roots of the foundation of this nation are. They let the crown know. And it wasn't just an idea of a declaration of independence. It was a whole lot of fighting that followed behind that. So socialism, if that's what you want to call it that. What I call it is a redistribution of profits that the wealthy have had. Jeff Bezos don't need all that money. Elon Musk don't. You can see he don't know what to do with all that money. Go ahead and redistribute some of that money. Go ahead and put just like a NFL or a sports franchise, they got a cap, put a ceiling and a floor on what you can make. And if you can't make it there, we're gonna go ahead and cut you a check, so that you ain't out here killing, stealing, and robbing. But if you want to if y'all call it socialism, be consistent and call it socialism when you see these people, getting all this money when they get bailed out. Be consistent. That's socialism too. You got a problem with student loans being forgiven for people who utilize that education to better the nation, but you say nothing. Tax breaks, you say nothing. On bailouts, come on now, be consistent now.
Exactly. I definitely agree. All right. So our getting back into here, we're going to continue with Maynard Jackson, who again was the mayor of Atlanta,
Georgia.
And he really, really did good by Atlanta. I thought it was Andy Young who did the greatest by Atlanta, but
no, emphatically no. Not old fire hose, no. You want some fire put out in a meeting? Put Andrew Young up in there.
All right, we will go and check this first video out.
But also the first to stray away from the aldermanic chambers, quiet formality, and let the whole city watch what may be called the Civic Center's extravaganza.
The inauguration was pure Maynard Jackson. He knew exactly what he wanted, he knew how he wanted it done, and he knew where he wanted it done. It was just a wonderful, wonderful moment. People came from all over the country, and they were seated in the Atlantic Civic Center for the inauguration of Atlanta's first Black mayor.
Of the United States and of the state of Georgia. So help me God.
He finally realized that this was it. He was now the mayor of the city of Atlanta. Black people thought that he was going to walk on water and that everything was going to be 100% right. And that was his challenge, to make everything right.
I mean, when Maynard went into office, the first thing he did was he took inventory of where all of the city's money was being housed.
Right after the election, I think it couldn't have been more than a couple of weeks. At that time, we couldn't find any African Americans that were on the boards of the local banks in Atlanta. The fact that Maynard had called some of the bank presidents together to try to encourage them to put African Americans on the boards of their bank. And there was one whose name, it doesn't recall, but I believe he was over the CNS Bank or something at the time. Back then, that was the big bank. But the statement basically was that, he wasn't going to tell them who was going to be on the boards of their bank. And his reaction was, you're right, I can't tell you who's going to be on the board of your bank, but what I can tell you is that we're going to withdraw the city money from your bank.
And you'd have these dignified businessmen coming over and sitting down with the mayor and says, Mayor, there's just no blacks qualified. And that would set him off in private. But he was so mannerly and such a gentleman that he would not confront them. But once they left the room, you'd hear what he really felt.
Chairman of one of the banks called him and said, Maynard, okay, we see what you're saying. We'll diversify our bank board. Who do you want us to put on the board? And Maynard was like, oh, no, you're not going to get me that way. I'm not going to tell you who to put on the bank board. I want to see the bank board diversified.
The paper would never ask, what you going to do if they don't do it? He said, I'm sure the banks in San Francisco or California would like to have the money, but we're going to get a black on every bank board in this town. How small or big it is.
And then all of a sudden, black people started showing up on the board banks because they wanted to make sure that they continued to have an opportunity to do business with the city. When Maynard first got elected, or when they
eliminate undue political influence.
So I don't know why the video doesn't show, but there you heard it. That he went when he got into office and he took account of their money and went to the banks and said, if you don't put black people on your board, with the city of Atlanta is withdrawing all its money from out of your bank. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, black people start showing up on the boards. Now that definitely was a power move that Maynard Jackson did. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on that, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, it's once again another occasion where we're seeing the old boy network in operation. It's not that you can't find qualified black folk. It's that you don't care to. Mm. And it's for me, it's almost what I would term human nature, that if I were in a position to do something substantial, I'm going to initially look within my inner circle, and maybe once removed, asking my inner circle, do you know of anyone who could do, this, and more than likely it's say, yeah, I know a fabulous person who does this. And well, that's how your organization is going to be stopped. Is it fair? No, it's not fair to the outside world, but that's how it occurs. I mean, you look at this thing with the NFL and the Rooney Rule. Black coaches, it's not that they're completely locked out, because they're in that world where they know each other. So people are aware of who they are. However, when you're talking about an owner who probably has limited to no exposure to Black folk, he's going with what's comfortable to him. And the idea of picking the best qualified person, what exactly does that mean? Can you codify what that means? Why is this person the best qualified to do the job versus this other person? More than likely, they're both qualified and both could come in and do the job, but you feel more comfortable with one versus the other. And that's how the banks in Atlanta were, I guarantee you, were stopped. That's how lawyers, offices, attorneys think. That's how Maynard Jackson, ironically, probably stopped his administration. He stocked it full of Black folk. So we're kind of fighting against what I would argue is almost nature for our people, that you're going to bring in, and you're going to allow those that you're most comfortable with, which is ironically those within your social circle, those who more than likely look most like you, to have those positions. It's just what it is. In affirmative action and things like that, if you don't have that, there is no reasonable way for people to merge onto that highway, because the idea of having working harder and making it, that's not how you get ahead. That's not even how you get opportunities. It's often 9 times out of 10 who you know. Period. My first teaching job, ironically, at Columbus State Community College, I was just talking about the young lady that was a part of Michael Coleman's administration. I got that job because the professor who was assigned to teach that night, it was a night class, Marilyn Howard. Dr. Howard was participating in some type of medical study and couldn't do it. And apparently she found out that she had been accepted or whatever on the first night of class. And so I'm at one of my other jobs with my advisor, Dr. Warren Van Tyne. Dr. Van Tyne calls me and said, yo, you need to be at Columbus State Community College by 6 o'clock this evening. You teaching. That's how that happened. So now, you get what I'm saying? So now what does that mean? How do you, did I benefit from my network? Certainly. I wouldn't have gotten that job, that opportunity. I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't get that opportunity. Did other people not get that opportunity who were certainly more qualified than I was, because I had never taught before? Did they miss out because they weren't a part of that network? Yeah. Is it fair? No. But is it how the world operates? Certainly.
But you still were qualified for it, though. Even though you were in the right network, you still met the qualifications, right?
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I
Oh,
had
wow.
not taken my general exams yet, and having not taken my general exams, I was not qualified to teach content wise. I knew my content, but I
Mhm.
hadn't gotten over that barrier, which is a barrier that we all have to go over to be able to do what it was that I was doing. And
Mhm.
it ironically came out in a conversation. And the guy who hired me, he said, there are simply some questions that I'm not going to ask you.
Mm.
He said, so don't bring it up. And that's how it was handled. And I know if that was handled with me that way, that there are other people who certain things are handled that way.
And you don't think that's evening the books or evening the ledger? You know, if white folks do it for theirs, Koreans do it for theirs.
Well, but this was a
And
white guy who did it.
okay.
This was a white guy who did it. It's just that Dr. Howard, she was black.
Mhm.
My advisor was white. The head
Mhm.
of the department at Columbus State, he was white. So it was more of a our back is up against the wall. We have 2.5 hours to find somebody to be standing in the front of this class.
Mm.
That's how that happened
Mm.
right there. It wasn't a racial thing. What we're seeing so often, especially it applies to Atlanta, is that white companies, they have their own people, they have their own networks, they have people who are certified and this and that, and they have the game sold up. You really can't compete with that. You just
Mm.
can't. And so now the question that was facing Atlanta, the question that was facing the nation is this question: how do you break up what amounts to as a closed society or a monopoly?
Mm.
It's the exact same thing that we saw with Dick Cheney and Halliburton. It's not accidental that Halliburton was the only U.S. corporation that was already pre-qualified to go in and rebuild a nation that we tore up. It's all part
Mhm.
of the game. Positioning yourself.
Mhm. I definitely agree with that, and I think that we should take more opportunities to help one another when you're on that type of in that type of an environment, to be able to pull another black person up as long as they be qualified, and I mean able to do the job. Sometimes I think about it, Doc, where you got to have this license, you got to have that
Yes.
license.
Yes.
But the reality is you can still do the job whether
Mhm.
you have the license or not. That's just a way for the state, the government, to make money to make you get this license.
Yeah, but what is the associated risk? And we were just talking about how Carl Stokes was burned. What's the associated risk that you go ahead and you allow one of your own to go ahead and take a position like that, and he's not fully qualified and he
Well,
doesn't do the job?
I think there has to be a degree of, you're going to learn on the job, right? So it's like for me when I run next year for the city council and win, everybody on my staff, they're going to be like brand new. They ain't never did this before. I'm not going to go out and get somebody, that's been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years and bring them on the team. I ain't doing that. I'm starting off with everybody who don't know shit. You're going to learn it while you're in that job, while you're on that
No, but
beat.
no,
You're
but
going
see,
to learn it.
I think that you're missing what I asked you. Let's say that okay, after you win
Mm-hmm.
and you have some qualified people, but you got a brother or sister who actually you're pretty confident that they can do the job. It's just they don't have any experience and they don't have the necessary certifications or what have you.
Right.
Do you bring them on? And at what risk to yourself? Because if it turns into a absolute disaster, they're coming for your head. Why did you put this person here when you had other folk that you could have put there? And for me, therein lies the danger.
Yeah, there is, and I thought about that, but I also thought about the greater good and what that I'm trying to do. So it's like those who've already been there and been doing it. Soon as you get there with your ideas, oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do that. And that's not what I'm trying to hear. I'm trying to hear, watch me do it. Watch me do it. So that puts those in around you that, yeah, you have to study up to know what do you need to be doing? What is it that you need to be learning so that we can move this agenda forward? I think that those, especially when you're dealing in politics, those that been there for all this time and ain't did shit, ain't got nothing to show for it, didn't produce any real change, didn't give our people nothing, is a waste of time and a waste of energy, and they got to go. They got to go. It is time to bring some real blood in there with an eye for the people and that are ready to make a serious change, to follow up. It's like Maynard. The things that Maynard did was so bold and, to my understanding, wasn't done before.
Well, it wasn't done before, no.
And so he's taking money out of these rich white folks' mouths and putting them in about to be rich black folks' mouths. I think where he made his mistake is he didn't set up something, or he didn't have one of those black folks that he's going to, blow up and make rich, be able to take care of him, give him a job, being a lawyer or doing something to keep the thing moving. He has to go out to New York City and get a job as a lawyer and then come back and run for mayor all over again and win. So I think that is one of the things that we have to be thinking about is how do we keep this thing moving, once I'm out of office? But
the thing is that when you go back and you look at what happened in Atlanta, those white folk are still winning those bids. That's the thing. And the demand that is made for you to hold on to the bid that you want, that demand is that you're going to have to subcontract a certain percentage of that out. So these people, these black folk who are benefiting from that as far as subcontracting, these are working people. These are working corporations and what have you. So them being able to, and it's as I talk about it, I think about how ironic it actually is that here you have a situation where these black folk that he's helping have been harmed and kept out of the off the financial highway so long that even him bringing them on does not put them in a position for them to ever challenge or be the big dogs. They're still going to have to wait and hope that white corporations and companies that win these bids will throw them a bone, that they have in many ways favored status. Those are not people who are going to be able to pay back favors to anyone, because they're still using the business sense, in the business way. They're still living job to job, like many people live paycheck to paycheck.
Now, what he did, he wasn't talking about subcontracting. No, he made them the boss, the owners. Now, if they wanted to subcontract out to other little black companies, they could, but these were right there, right on par with whites taking money out of their mouth, because they were getting roughly, before Maynard, they were getting only 1%, roughly 1%
Yeah.
But when Maynard came in, he started giving them 25 to 30%.
Yeah, but the thing is, the thing that happened with Jackson's election was that him winning signaled to white folk that Atlanta is now a black city. And so they left. And one of the things that the Jackson administration was serious about was quite simply that, listen, we need to have this percentage of that money remaining within Atlanta companies. So yeah, what you're saying is true. But at the exact same time, what I'm saying that these white companies, to get those contracts, are going to have to subcontract still. So in many ways, he is double dipping in regards to what he is forcing them to do. Not only will black companies get contracts in and of themselves, but white companies, to be able to get these contracts, are going to have to subcontract with the people, the black folk of Atlanta. So in many ways, he's doing a lot. And it's one of the reasons why they referred to him, they called him the S word, a socialist, because he was redistributing the money.
Exactly. And I think that his desire for doing great for our people was definitely needed. And he definitely led the way in doing that, and doing it unapologetically.
Yeah, I mean, but he has the Billy Club at the time. He has the affirmative action legislation that is new for the nation, and they do a phenomenal job with implementing that, because they are the ones, for the first time in American history, who actually have the rights. They're on the right side of the law when it comes to helping blacks economically.
Definitely. And then he had, in 1977, sanitation workers and municipal employees went on strike for higher wages. Jackson refused to yield and fired over 900 striking workers and hired replacements, which created deep anger among black workers and unions.
Yes.
Now, what I know you're a union man, so what's your thoughts on that?
I'm certainly a union man. What do you mean? What are my thoughts about it?
Yeah, do you think he did the right thing
By not giving them the money?
Yeah, and firing their ass and sending them packing.
It's impossible for me to say that. See, my thing is this: that when you're looking at worker owner relationships, I always, and when I lecture about these types of things, I liken them to a dance where both parties need to know what their part is in the dance. If one doesn't know what their part and their role is, then you're not going to be able to execute the dance. So exactly. On the one hand, you can have a situation where the city doesn't have the money. And then on the other hand, you could have a situation where the city has the money and just doesn't want to give them the money. It's impossible to tell which is which. Maynard Jackson says they didn't have the money, so that's sort of the end all. What the union is going to try and do is squeeze that money up out of them. And personally, I have a problem with that. Yet at the exact same time, I don't have a problem with workers striking for better wages and for better conditions and what have you, because those are often things that are doable. But if it's not doable, then what are we really doing here? Right. Although I'm a union man, as you put it, which I truly am, I just look at it as there's so many other factors and variables that are involved that need to be answered before you can really talk about, well, this was a positive move, or he should have done this, or he should have done that. If he doesn't have the money, there's nothing he can do. That move has already been made.
Okay. So we're going to go really quick and look at, hopefully the video will play, but y'all can hear it good, right, Doc?
Yeah, can hear it.
All right, so let's see if we can do this again. Oh, here we go.
Politically motivated at all. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no politics involved. What I'm trying to do is eliminate undue political influence in the police department.
Hemming was a part of the old guard. You see, if you were a clansman, you could get a job on the police force. That didn't start changing until the late 40s, early 50s. John Inman was a relic of that past.
He had let dogs loose on Hosea Williams at one point when the mayor was out of the city. The image of dogs scaring demonstrators and snarling nearby was unacceptable. And the mayor fired the chief.
And so he highly resented Maynard Jackson becoming the mayor. And for all practical purposes, he was going to defy his boss.
And Maynard came up with, which what I thought was genius. He came up with, okay, well, if I can't replace this police chief, I'm just gonna put somebody over the police chief. And he came up with this concept of having a public safety commissioner.
We need to have a top-notch administrator, and preferably someone who does have a background in law enforcement. Now, that is not a statutory requirement, but it is clearly one of my preferences.
And all of the public safety positions reported to that individual, including this racist police chief. And basically that guy's job was to count paper clips somewhere, and Reggie Eves became the public safety guru.
Because I'm also committed to the same principle, and that is to provide safety for the citizens of this city.
Maynard put a lot of pressure on him to cut crime in 6 months and to do the things that he wanted him to do. And it wasn't possible, so much so that Reggie Eves, Commissioner Eves, he fell to the pressure.
On Saturday, some 300 Atlanta police officers are scheduled to take an examination for some 21 open positions for the rank of sergeant. The competition is stiff. It's the first time in years that the examination has been given.
He wanted to promote more Black police officers into managing positions and higher levels in the department. But you had to pass a test in order to do it. And so the cheating scandal happened.
I'm calling today on Public Safety Commissioner Reginald Eves to submit his resignation to the mayor immediately. Only then can we seek an end to the continued public turmoil that has resulted in a shattering of confidence in the police operations of our city.
The incident with Reggie Eves about the cheating scandal in the police department was probably one of the most difficult issues that Maynard had to deal with.
Whitefalla told me he was going to call for Reginald Eves' resignation. I asked him not to. He said I got to do it, got adamant about it. And yet he had the absolute temerity to issue a statement which this afternoon resulted in polarizing the city. And I shall never forget what Whitefalla did.
What does that have to do with Reginald Eves? So what happens to him now? I mean, he's not Whitefalla. He's not elected.
But eventually, Maynard had to ask him to step down, and that was because Maynard was loyal. I mean, if you were a friend of his, especially Morehouse, a brother, an Alpha brother, I mean, he was just loyal to you to the end.
He allowed some people to stay longer than they should have. I think that's fair to say.
I think he was very worried about losing a lot of what he had gained if he let Reggie go. But on the other hand, Reggie had become such a discordant figure. He had become such a distracting figure that for the sake of the city and to get peace again, I felt that he should have let him go earlier.
He called me. He said, I want you to go to Reginald Eves and tell him you'd like for him to resign because of the effect that it's having on my term as mayor. I went to Reggie, we talked maybe half an hour, and he agreed to resign. But unfortunately, the next day, he talked to another local political leader who talked him out of that.
as I said a long time ago, and I've said over and over and over again, I have a job to do. When I complete that job, then I'm going to move on to something else. After I've done it, that's sufficient. But we have a long way to go on that job yet.
It was embarrassing when the mayor had to stand before the cameras expecting a resignation that did not come.
And we're sitting there with our mouths wide open, watching this City Hall, wondering what's going on.
But in this particular case, he made the decision that he was going to terminate Reggie, and that did not go down well, and was, just a low mark, but it was something that had to be done.
So I want to go back because you saw, I hope you was able, and you didn't see because it was black, but I want to take it back because your boy was in there who gave Maynard a hard time. Hosea Williams. Let's see if I can get to it. So this is the Evans guy. Well, let's see. So that the little picture, that's the Evans guy. See, so he had his problem with the police chief too. And he made this black guy the head of it, but he wasn't doing a really good job of it. And so Maynard wanted him to step down, but your boy Hosea Williams, and he wrote this article, and I'm trying to get it to pop up so you could see. I mean, they were making cartoons of Maynard over this thing. And I can't get the damn thing to show up. But anyway, it was November 13th, 1977, and Hosea Williams wrote an article in the Atlanta Constitution telling Eves that he must be given a chance to do his job. So, when the mayor was expecting Eves to quit, to resign, Hosea Williams talked him in to not resigning. And so, the mayor was looking like a jackass. Here you are doing this press conference thinking he going to resign, and now dude ain't going to resign. It's this, what do you want to call it? Lack of loyalty to the man in office. And it's like, it's okay to make him look like he's a dipshit and don't know what the hell he's doing. And white people looking like, damn, look at these niggas. They don't know whether they coming or going. And we got them running the city. It's like, damn. We can't hear you, Doc.
But that's, once again, the danger of kind of hooking somebody up. Because if it goes south, they're going to hang that around your neck. And regardless of other things that you have been able to accomplish or what have you, that's what you're going to be known for. That one right there. Whatever negative it is into, the thing is, and I don't know this. I got my own suspicions, but I don't think that the Daily Machine or a significant white political machine would ever have that occur to them.
No, they wouldn't.
Already be wrapped up that this is the move that we're going to make, versus what you think is going to happen and this and that. Yeah.
Yeah. They would never allow no shit like that to happen. Because you're supposed to fall on that sword, goddamn it, you better fall on it.
Yeah. Well, and they would make it extremely beneficial to you to fall on that sword, and make it excruciatingly painful if you chose not to.
Exactly. And there, I don't know whether you want to call it, Doc. There's a level of white solidarity or being on the white team, you know, you just got to do what the fuck you got to do, right? But when it comes
I don't know if it's white solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's solidarity amongst a certain class
Mm-hmm.
and political elite that you
Okay.
have, you know, versus black folk. What you know, not to say that Hosea Williams ain't nobody, but at the same time, he shouldn't be anybody in the political realm.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear Joel Osteen speaking up with a political voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think that when you don't have the political empire, that you wind up trying to add pieces to bolster you that other people would never have to worry about, because you need, and you know, just on second thought, when I say who's Hosea Williams, well, Hosea Williams probably controls what, 15 million black votes, National Black Convention, Black Baptist Convention. We all know that who's the most powerful black man in America on that Sunday before the election is pastor, who can tell people where to vote, who to vote for, why they should vote this way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I do think this, though, that as black political people, you owe loyalty. If
Loyalty to who and why?
You owe loyalty to your people.
Okay.
Because the question has to be asked, is this good for our people? How will this improve the condition of our people? If it's going to improve the condition of our people, then it is your duty not to go fuck it up, not to get in the way and be a stumbling block to hurt what's in the best interest of our people. And this is something that as a political, quote unquote, political group, we fail at. We fail.
But see, I think that you might be reading that wrong in this way. Because really, what we're talking about, when you talk about loyalty, okay, you're talking about almost being in debt to someone or something. If there's something that you belong to and they've done some things for you, and now you are kind of in debt to that. My question would be this: why would a black politician feel that they are in debt to black America when the financial backing that got them elected did not come from black hands?
Because that's your people.
But see, that's the thing. I don't know if that's a great way of looking at it, and it's a way of looking at it from that you and I would understand. But the truth of the matter is that, are these people that we're talking about, do they recognize that black people are their people in the same way that we recognize it? Because it seems as if that, to be honest with you, is really sophisticated highbrow thinking of being able to look at the entire terrain of things versus what some people would refer to as selling out and going ahead and taking the white dollar, the white political assistance, the privilege that flows from that. And in many ways, not necessarily, well, you're distancing yourself from black folk solely because you're not bringing up or dealing with black issues.
You know, and I think this is what has to be understood, that you have to be able to operate out of a new concept, out of a new mindset, right? That you understand that your loyalty, your duty, it is to your people. It is to your people. I don't give a damn if Strawbridges and Clothier come up and give you $1 million, your duty is to your people. And that is what you have to make sure that you do the most, the everything that you can do to
But
uplift
how do you in the new millennium,
mm-hmm.
how do you discern who your people are? Because I'm thinking about right now a discussion that it comes up kind of infrequently in my classes when I'm talking about race.
Mm-hmm.
But it basically boils down to this. Biracial children.
Okay.
Many of my students are biracial. And my students will immediately say, well, they black too.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they're in the ferocity that they say that with communicates to me a belief, true or untrue, that these biracial children, biracial people are defaulted to black
Mm-hmm.
because white folk are not going to accept them.
Right.
So you're going to be over here with us regardless of how you feel. My point has always been, have you ever asked them?
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes some of them will have the courage to speak up in my class, and they will say, no, I don't look at myself as being black.
Mm-hmm.
I'm both. I'm black and I'm white.
Mm-hmm.
White folk have shunned us, as have black folks shunned us, and they'll give the reasons why. And so the idea of having a very simplified concept or understanding of who your people are, as you use that term, I don't think it's so simple in the new millennium, because which is the greater of you, your blackness or your gayness? Which is the greater part of you, your blackness or your working class status?
Mm-hmm.
Or this is one that really trips up our community, your blackness or your gender.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of your people, I think that's one that for the last 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
we should not skip over and take anything for granted. Because there's some people who will tell you, no, my gay identity supersedes my blackness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gay before I'm black.
And this is the reason why, or that's the reason why they have to understand the position of being black first. You know, your blackness comes before everything. If your blackness doesn't come before everything, then no, unfortunately, you're choosing to not be us. So when you're dealing with the, what she called them, the honky niggas, when you're dealing with them, and you ask them, well, what are you? Are you black? Are you white? What are you? And if they say, no, I'm white.
Somebody referred to them as Negropeans.
you don't identify with who you are, so you take your ass on over there and be with them and deal with them, because you've already X'd your way out of us being over here. So you go over there, and whether they accept you or not, but that's what you identify with. You have that freedom. I think that we have to understand. So, even me, like I'm in the pharmacy, but I'm a black man first. So we had a real.
So are you a black pharmacist or a pharmacist who happens to be black?
No, I'm a black pharmacist. I'm black first, and nothing comes before that. And we had a black guy, and he was kind of off. I ain't gonna lie, he wasn't kind of off. He was a little crazy, but I could talk to him, right? And when he starts to, getting up there, and I would tell him, calm down, sit down, and I'll get to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he would do exactly that. He'll calm down, sit down, and he get to you. He ain't never been violent against nobody. But when others see him, then the word was automatically push that button. You push that button, the goddamn police coming and everything. You know, everybody coming running. So that was the thing. When you saw him, push the button. And I would get offended that you pushing the button and he ain't even committed a crime. But because you're so scared of him, and then when I'm there, it's like, you ain't pushed the button? No, I'm not pushing the button. I don't have to push the button. He's fine. I talked to him straight up, boop, 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 and there's no issue. But everybody else, they run, it was policy. When you see him, push the button. And everybody rushing to push that damn button, you know? And it's like, stop it. I saw somebody else push the button because a black girl said, no, I want you to explain to me why this is the situation. He come up there Asian. He come up there, he pushed the button. I'm like, God damn. Y'all fuckers, y'all button happy. That's like the police trigger happy. Y'all button happy. And it's offensive to me that you just gonna push the button because they want an explanation. And you don't feel like that they're due an explanation, so I'm gonna push the button. I'm gonna get you out of here. I'm gonna push the button. Stop it. Stop it. And this thing is real. It's real, and it's something that at some point enough has to be enough. At some point, enough really has to be enough. And that, look, we are human beings just like anybody else. We deserve the same respect, the same honesty, the same care as everybody else is getting. But when it comes to us, you're really quick to get them to freak on out of there and be like, oh, they just, you can't talk to them. You can't explain nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, but the question is, for these groups, these people who have made a conscious decision to embrace a different part of their identity, because that is a part of their identity and who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's reminding me of, and I'm thinking about what is the primary catalyst in regards to them doing that. What it reminds me of is Du Bois's The Souls of Black Folk,
Mm-hmm.
where he says that what he wants is the ability to be both a Black man and an American,
Mm-hmm.
without one side trying to kill him.
Mm.
Okay. The American side trying to kill the Black side.
Right.
Okay. I would venture to guess, and I know that this is true, that many of those who are living what would be referred to as an alternative lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
have separated themselves from what I would argue is mainstream Black folk, the
Mhm.
majority of Black folk, because they feel as we've tried to kill them. Maybe not literally, but figuratively.
Right.
Suppress them to the point where they have to hide who they are because they're not going to be accepted. There's I'm a person who I love the grocery store. I'll stop at a grocery store, don't eat nothing. And I'll walk through the grocery store. Okay. I'm like that. My sister's like that. My mama was like that. And my dad's like that. We just walk through, and Kroger is our store. We'll literally call you, such and such on sale this week. Okay. if they had a grocery store, a Kroger version of The Price is Right, I'd win every time. Because I can tell you what's on sale when I ain't got to look at the sale paper. Okay. But I've been kind of having an affair on Kroger. I've been creeping on Kroger. I've been going to Food Town. Food Town's right around the corner. I can be in Food Town in 30 seconds. But there's a brother at Food Town who's obviously gay.
Okay.
Okay. He has that soft, look, he's gay. Okay. He's not one of those masculine presenting gay. He ain't got no dress on or nothing like that, but
Right.
you can tell that this
Right.
is gay. I bet you I've seen this brother 200-300 times. He's never spoken to me. Even after I say, "How are you doing?" No response whatsoever. Okay. Last time I was there, I was waited on by a sister, and we're having a banner back and forth, and he's a manager or something there, and he comes up, and because there wasn't a guy, putting the items I was buying in a bag, so he steps up and starts doing it. Now we're talking, me and the cashier. He comes up, he talks to her. And when I addressed him, he said nothing. And I'm like, this has to be one of those brothers that has, for whatever reason, made a decision to have no dealings with straight black men. He won't acknowledge you. He won't. And if you watch him, he does it with other black men who are in there. And so I'm looking at it as if maybe he was shunned growing up by black men. And I know someone that this is true of. He was shunned by black folk, by the black community in general. And this brother grew up with almost a vendetta against black people. So much to the point where, and this is how deep seated it was in his head. Which makes me, and I think that he was gay as well, okay. But I think that if you were to ask him, he would say that he was black. However, he walked around with business cards in his pocket. Okay, he had somehow managed to become a VP at some universities or whatever, and he had these business cards that he kept on like a money clip, 20, 30 business cards. And he would reach into his pocket, pull them out and say, "You better watch what you say." Okay. Because right here are the business cards of everyone whose career I've ended.
Oh, shit.
Absolutely insane. Okay. They made a decision to, and like I said, one, I don't know anything about him, but I imagine both of these brothers would say that they were black. But their idea of, they're black identifying, but their idea of black solidarity is non-existent for whatever reason. And I guess my point is quite simply, we have to be careful about who we are taking for granted. Are black men, are black women, because they're into so many other different things. And I would argue, I don't have a study behind it or anything, but looking at these years of the gender war, I guarantee you that there are. A matter of fact, when I was in Baltimore at the conference a couple of weeks ago, a sister got up and did a presentation, and she ended it by saying, she used a quote. She had, I wrote it down somewhere, the person who said it. But the quote basically said, and this is a black woman, she said, "I will not feel as if my job as a black woman has been accomplished if I enter the grave without having put 3 to 4 black men in their graves."
She actually said that?
She said that at the National Council of Black Studies. Okay.
Wow.
And so the idea of black solidarity, non-existent. We don't even speak to each other. Okay. We don't even acknowledge each other. We will do more against each other to bring each other down than white folks will, because most white folk don't care. They're trying to get theirs. Whereas we will, my experience has been that we will go ahead and we will actually stop our own progress to do you in, to disrespect you. And so when you have those of us who are B1 and loyal, that erodes that over time, because you're going to be facing situations where you don't know who's who now. Can you trust this person? Yay or nay? You know, I have
Wow.
I have a very close colleague that we talk about things, you know, on the job things. And he's told me flat out, he's like, yo, don't talk to this person. He said, because this person is running around saying this, and this about other folk. And so if you got a conversation with him, he's going to throw you in there as well. So those are some of the things. And that's why I'm like the idea of literally anything dealing with Black folk, I take nothing for granted. Because I don't know what your world perspective is. I don't know what your political priorities are. You know, National Council of Black Studies, okay, Molefe Asante, okay, Milana Ron Karinga, their organization, and that sister said that she will not feel as if she has done her duty as a Black woman if she enters the grave without having put 3 or 4 Black men in the grave. The National Council of Black Studies.
Wow.
So it puts you in the mind of, can you even trust Black women? And the answer is no. Can you trust Black men? The answer is no. You know, like I told you, my interaction with the 100 Black Men of Houston.
Right.
You know, believing, you know, negative things about me. You've never even met me. And my follow-up question to them was, did you believe her though? Yeah, we did believe her. The only way you could believe that is if you're a great measure already down that road of believing that about Black men. And the idea that it's all Black men except for your inner circle. Or except for you.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Did they escort her ass right on out the building after she said that? What
No.
They just let her say that shit and don't even question her. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, you have Black women, you have a movement now of Black women, and it's not new, where these sisters are saying that if you come up pregnant, you need to go get a sonogram to figure out if it's going to be a boy or a girl. And if it's a boy, abort them. Because Black men are our oppressors. And these are the people that you're supposed to, I mean, come on, man. Look at how terrible we Black men can treat Black women, and Black women can treat Black men, and Black women can treat other Black women. I mean, I was looking at this YouTube stuff, and saw these 2 sisters throw down. They said it was at Ruth's Chris. Threw down in a restaurant. Okay, and I'm talking about fought. Okay, people screaming and hollering, the white folk in the back just sitting there eating their food. And after it was over, because matter of fact, you could probably find this, because the one sister is suing the restaurant, because after the 2 sisters that were fighting, and once they got done fighting, the restaurant manager or somebody with the restaurant came over to their table. They had nothing to do with the fight. Came over to their table and told them they wouldn't be serving them tonight because y'all like to fight.
But the other Black people ain't had nothing to do with it?
They didn't have nothing to do with it. But you ain't gonna be served either. And so the sisters are actually suing the restaurant So the idea of racial solidarity really only would work if we were the ones that were educating and pouring into our people, but we're not. So you have a situation where people who are ingesting a intellectual and entertainment diet that says quite simply that Black folk ain't nothing. You expect for those same people who are, let's call them what they are white-minded. You're expecting to merge with them?
No,
When
not
you're
with,
looking at the world through a Black lens, they looking at it through a self-advantageous, I need to get ahead by any means necessary lens. The question becomes, the problem is quite simply, you can't discern who's who anymore.
That's very bad. But there has to be, and I don't know how we would go about doing it, but I don't, you know what? I wouldn't even think that those people would even vote for a Black talking politician. I don't think that they would vote for it. I think they would probably exclude themselves out of that picture because they honestly don't see themselves as being a Black person. That is a factor that has to be dealt with because what your boy Chuck D say? Every brother ain't a brother. Cause a color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that they will actually get aboard that. How to do this? They will get aboard that if there is any possible benefit to it. They can get on that, you know. And it's literally what it is. You see if I can figure out how to share my screen. Is there a way to,
you see the one with the plus in the middle of the computer screen? Click on it.
The plus in the middle right here.
Yeah,
okay, share screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Can you see it?
Okay. Yeah, it's up there.
Okay.
Somebody break it up. This is sad, y'all.
My sister Circle and I were out celebrating our Friendsgiving.
Oh my
We
God.
arrived at the restaurant. Shortly after arriving, we only had time to give drink orders. We didn't even get our drinks. And a physical altercation happened between two African-American women. We did not know them. We were not affiliated with them. They were at another table. They began to fight. The situation was diffused by management and other staff members. The management came over to our table and told us that they would not be servicing us tonight. We had to leave. I questioned, are you shutting the entire restaurant down for tonight? No, we're just not servicing you all because y'all like to fight.
Wow.
And I mean, realistically speaking, realistically now, we supposed to join with them?
I see it as them joining with us, meaning that there has to be a level of education, of knowledge of self to get them to understand what it is. Because when I look at them, I see a problem, but I see a problem that was caused not because they were born black, but they were caused because they were born in a system and nobody got to teach them who and what they actually are. So they're behaving as the niggas that they were taught to be. They're behaving as the niggas that they were taught to be. And so
let's follow that line of thinking.
Mhm.
So are you saying that they were victims of Stockholm syndrome?
Exactly. Mhm.
So what percentage of Black America are being victimized by Stockholm syndrome?
I would say maybe 45% are like that. And I think more are becoming awakened that there's a problem. They're becoming awakened that, hey, there's a problem. They don't understand the total problem, but they understanding that, hey, there's a problem and something has to be done. And I think that our job would be to explaining how this problem began and how do we cure the problem so that they could go through the learning environment and come out to be a perfect, not perfect, but a better Black individual.
So when, at what age do you have to catch them? Because I think that after a certain point, personality wise, you just are who you are.
Mhm.
And the way you navigate the world is just how you navigate the world. And it's predicated upon a whole bunch of different sets and factors.
Mhm.
So Chuck D,
Mhm.
Public Enemy, had this great song, Turn Off the Radio.
Mhm.
Is it even possible to reorient these people? Is it even possible? And I mean, is it reasonable? Is it likely, to reorient them, or are they lost causes? And if they're lost causes, are we talking about a situation where we begin to take their children and raise their children along a different path? There's a part of me that believes that we've allowed, and I'm just dealing with Black folk, that we've allowed things to get so out of hand
Mhm.
that there's literally no way you can get it back in the bottle.
Mhm.
There's literally, unless because the path to getting it back in the bottle would be a brutal one.
Exactly.
And that brutality would put us in danger because they calling the police on you.
Exactly.
So have we reached that point of no return? And the irony is, like, when I think back about Maynard Jackson's administration,
Mhm.
it was during Jackson's administration that Atlanta became the best place for Black folk to live. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Black folk were making more money in Atlanta than anywhere else in the nation. But it was also became the #1 murder capital in the nation as well. So are we talking about a situation where Blackness is only one level? It's one of the things that has to be checked off in regards to on a checklist that would denote that you're one of us. Like, you got to be Black.
Mhm.
Okay. You got to be this, you got to be that, you got to be this. And if you can't check all of those, then you're not going to be welcomed into what it is that we're doing. Okay? Because we can't trust you.
Mhm.
So the question becomes, if we're being selective,
Mhm.
creating prerequisites in regards to who can come in and who cannot, doesn't it stand to reason that other people who have decided to not be B1
Mhm.
have done a similar evaluation criterion and kind of said, nah, I'm never going to fit in with them.
Mhm.
That's one point. And then the other point that I want to ask you, have we conceded blackness, generally speaking, to the worst segments of our society?
Mm.
Is blackness being defined in the general sense, not us,
Mhm.
but generally, is it being sort of defined by rappers, things like that?
Mhm.
And it's the tail for Black America, is the tail wagging the dog at this time? And if it is, do those of us who are conscious, can we walk away from that segment of the population with a clear mind?
I think to answer the question is yes. Our blackness is defined more than just by the color we are. It is defined by the way that we think. That really will tell us whether you're black or you're other. And so that's the checklist is how you think. Your thinking produces your actions. And we can look and tell by your actions whether you're black or not. It is seen that black people are the problems, period. That is what it is seen like. This is the thing. Those who don't have a black first mentality are not going to come to us until everything else has failed them. Everything else has to fail them. They have to see the reality of what we already know is out there. They have to feel that reality. They have to hit rock bottom and say, I don't have nowhere else. I give up. You know, it's like they go to church. I give up, Lord, help me, take me. I'm going to be good. That's when at that point, then we can take the niggas and we can turn them into black men and black women. Because at that point, they've reached their I give up. Ain't nothing else I can do. Ain't shit else working. I'm ready to submit.
What does that look like? Because for me, you know, my family, and you're familiar with this region as well. My maternal side of my family, my mother's people, Memphis, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is rock bottom for these Negras in Memphis? If they ain't at rock bottom already,
nope,
and I'm not talking about the ones over there in Germantown.
Right.
You know the ones I'm talking about, the ones in Frazier.
Right.
Okay. What they ain't at rock bottom?
Not to them.
That's what I'm saying. What does rock bottom look like then?
Yeah. For them, it would have to be where they have no other way, that they can't see anything beyond what they see there. And at that point, that's when they say, okay, I give up. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to do right. I'm ready to get the hell up out of this condition. Once they reach that point, that's when they can become.
But let's be fair to them. They're the ones that did a hell of a job in creating that culture, in that situation. They're the ones that embrace it. They sing about. So I don't see how that condition would be rock bottom for them. I think that they would glorify that. They would embrace that. The more ignorant, the better, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to be rock bottom? Because it seems like the worse that it gets, the more that they love it and they embrace it.
You know, it's like, because I was dealing with a brother just like that when I was down there. in Nashville, living in Nashville and dealing with a brother from Memphis that was in that position. And he was incarcerated, and he wrote me a letter. And he was saying, yeah, he in jail and he used to rap about it. And, this is just not something that he wants to continue doing. He was at his rock bottom and he was ready to listen, and he was ready to really make a serious change in his life. And, I began to help him, talk with him, communicate, share pictures and letters and stuff. And he got out, and, he is sticking to the right way. That was his rock bottom, where he realized, shit, this just not, it's not hitting for me. I want to be over there with them. I want to try doing what they did. And it took them to go and say, all right, I have to accept that this just not working. So some people, they're going to admit it when they're dealing with their heart of heart. You got them one-on-one, where they reach out to you one-on-one and will say, this, I don't find the glamour in it. I don't find the glory in it. I'm sitting here, I'm caged up because I wanted to run around like them, and they running free, and I'm in here. That's what rock bottom, the rock bottom is going to look differently for them than it would for us. For them, they got to go all the way down and then realize, I could be living better than this. Let me find where that light is and let me go start walking to that light. And some will make it and say, yeah, I want to walk that light and stay on that trail. Some will get on that trail and fall back off and, wind up being killed off or whatever. So it's like you've always said it, everybody ain't going to make it.
Yeah.
Everybody ain't going to make it. So, that's that decision that they have to make for themselves. We can't force it. I would love to force it on them. But that's just not how it works. That's just not the reality of it. And, I pray that they get that rock bottom sooner than later. Because the longer you wait, the harder it is going to be for you to correct the ship. And, for those who know that they need to correct the ship, don't wait till you get the rock bottom. Start now. Start that correction now. I've never been on a cruise ship, but I can imagine when they got to make a turn, they got to start turning the wheel or moving the rudders, however that damn thing goes.
You talking about hours to turn that thing around.
Exactly. So start that bad boy now and don't wait.
Well, yeah, and then the one of the things that we rarely talk about, and I'm in this stage now, full blown, that I'm tired. And so what I would argue would have been one of, just dealing with my family. One of their most valuable and useful resources is becoming increasingly less available to them. Because I'm tired of explaining the same stuff to you. I'm tired of, of talking about why is it, why can't you do just the basics to begin and start here? You have these grandiose ideas about how this thing is going to go, this and that, but you can't even get square one going. The idea of consistency and discipline. And I think that everybody has their limit. And it's not that I've lost the ability to aid and to work with our people. There's a part of me that looks at it as being hella inefficient and unrewarding. because I see, I'm just dealing with young folk, especially young Black men. Y'all ain't even trying to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a part of that is somewhat cultural,
Mm-hmm.
that you want to go ahead and you want to do what all the others are doing, and life is going to pass you by because you're not going to be excellent at anything. You're going to just be an average Joe, and
Mm-hmm.
being Black and a average Joe um, is not going to serve you well in the
Mm-hmm.
long term, situation. So yeah, but I just, until you are the only one that is pouring into your people
Mm-hmm.
with the truth about this nation, about our people, and what have you, we're at a decided disadvantage. And the fact that you couldn't go to any, even public school, and address an auditorium full of our kids, you got to go through the gatekeepers to even be able to do that. Puts us at an amazing disadvantage. And then the other aspect is like I told you, I mentioned it earlier, we had started that Saturday school,
Mm-hmm.
and to see Black folk not come to that. I had a student I was teaching. I was moonlighting at Houston Community College. I would teach at HCC on Saturday morning, and then I would immediately leave from HCC and go over to the Saturday school. And ironically, one of the guys that was in my class had, no, he was in the classroom next to mine. He brought his daughter to the Saturday school.
Mm-hmm.
And so we saw each other twice a day. And he came up to me, he said, "Man, you do this?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "So here we have a situation where a Black man who's got a PhD is teaching in the community for free. And there are 3 people sitting here." Those are the things that makes you like, what do you really want knowledge? Do you really want a path out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll continually come up with, nah, not really. They want, their actions show that they want entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just sort of, and I'll end with this, the idea, and this is one of and I consider it a legitimate criticism on one level. On another level, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala, she went and got rappers to go on stage with her. And these are not politically minded rappers. These are, the raunchiest of the raunchy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's who our people want to see. The masses of them want to see those people.
Mm-hmm.
And who's the brother? Ishmael Reed. My homeboy John Calhoun had conversation with Ishmael Reed. And Ishmael Reed said this, and I'll extend what it is he said. He said, "A people can be no healthier than their stories." And there's a lot of validity to that. And when you look at the stories that Black folk are supporting and that they buy, it's these urban, Big Daddy's Kingpin, Bottom B comes home.
Mm-hmm.
But I would extend that to not just our stories, but also our music.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at what our children are pouring into them, having poured into their minds without much parental supervision. It's deplorable.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And Doc, because you deal with our youth almost every day, you see it from a different lens because you're looking at our future.
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't look good. And I'm quite sure if I was, I would be pissed off every damn day. I probably wouldn't even want to look at them. You know, just being 100 with that, I probably wouldn't even want to look at them when they coming in with that foolishness. So I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Look here. I received a paper that was surely Chat GPT. And I ran it through the service that we use to discern if it's AI. I knew it was. Okay. And my suspicions were verified. Okay. The thing that really set me off that said that this person didn't write this, it was about the autobiography of Malcolm X. They, in the middle of the paper, they started talking about Malcolm Floyd. Now, who is Malcolm Floyd? And I'm like, wait, who the hell was Malcolm Floyd? I done read the autobiography hundreds of times, and I have never come across Malcolm Floyd. Now I'm interested. And they said that, it was a racial tragedy that Malcolm Floyd was killed in the middle of the street by a police officer who was kneeling, This person simply typed in Malcolm X, and the Chat GPT put out, combine Malcolm X with George Floyd. And they obviously either are that ignorant of Malcolm's story or didn't care to read what it is they were turning in. And so it's a up close and personal discouragement that it puts you in the mind of what's wrong with y'all.
Right.
And the ability to know, and the hard work that comes along with knowing has been short-circuited. Now they have a shortcut to everything.
Exactly.
And that's just really what it comes down to. You have, and I had a student ask me this once, said, after I talk to you or listen to you, I feel like I need to go get a library card and read. How much have you read in your lifetime? And I said, I can't even tell you how much I've read. It's just who I am. It's, this is what I do all day, every day, because I thoroughly enjoy it. I remember meeting a sister at a YMCA, and I just did this in the airport when I finally caught that flight from Baltimore. I was in line behind a brother who had a book in his arm, and I'm like, yo, man, what is that you read?
Right.
As a writer, I'm like, how did they get you to buy their book?
Right.
So we started talking about it. It was a book about religion or something like that. But I'm at the YMCA, and this sister, she's on the treadmill, and she has a book. And when she gets off treadmill, our paths crossed. And I said, yo, what are you reading? And it was one of them Black Harlequin romance type book, how Stella got her groove back or something.
Right.
And she says to me, so do you read? And I said, yeah, I know how to read. And she says, yeah, you should read more, and this and that. And she starts this whole thing about me needing to read. And I know that she's already taken the superior position of Black men don't read.
Right.
And she says, now I'm not telling you that you should have to read, as much as I do. But see, I read about a book a month. I said, what? You can make a book in a month? She said, yes. Now, just start doing what it is that you're able to do, and you can build your stamina up. And I called my homeboy Mario. He was my workout partner in Columbus. So I called Mario. I said, yo, you got to come here. You got to come here. Okay. He said, I said, tell him what you just told me. It's like, well, I just told your friend he needs to read more, and that I read about a book a month, and this, and he said, man, leave this girl alone. And she was like, well, what's wrong? He said, this fool right here getting a PhD, he reads a book a day. Okay, he's like the Rain Man. That sister looked at me, grabbed that book, put it under her arm, and stomped off. And I'm just like, maybe I can join the book club that you in. Y'all read, y'all knocking them out. A book.
Right.
But there's a general erosion in the stamina to read, the interest to read, because they are totally submerged and literally addicted to the instantaneous information. And they want bells and whistles. They want a song with it. They want this and that with it. And I'm not going to say they're the only ones who are doing that, but I can guarantee you that the Asians are not doing that.
Right.
And many of my brown brothers and sisters, the Mexicans and the Spanish, their kids aren't doing it that way either. Now, there are some black kids and some black parents who are on their kids and they are doing it, they're doing the thing. But by and large, on average, I come across so many of ours who are scatterbrained, lackadaisical, and it's not that they don't have the ability. And this is why I think that one of our main thrusts has got to be mentorship. Our kids just don't know. They don't know when they're, I'm dealing with I have a niece, Yaya, a Maya. Yaya is just like me. She's the one that's in her room with her door closed, doing what she does. And she's in there doing her work. And she's, very proud of her. Yaya has accomplished something that, she's on the honor roll, the scholars list or whatever. And she goes to the school I graduated from. And the family joke is, yo, you wouldn't know nothing like this when you was there, was you? And I'm like, yo, you got to remember that I grew up at a time where they wanted us all to feel as if we could succeed. So they ain't had no honor roll back then. Yeah, right, Negro. Yaya is 15.
Okay.
And the way that I look at that, the way my wife looks at it, is that it's time for Yaya to start really nailing down. You're on the scholars list for the first team. Only 5 kids make the first team. She gets in every single grading period.
Oh, wow.
Time for us to start knocking down where you going to school at.
Exactly.
And her response was, well, I'm only 15. I'm more interested in learning how to drive. That's a failure to an inability to be able to see the entire chessboard of life.
Exactly.
And I'll end with this. I remember it was 6th grade when all of my white classmates appeared on Monday with a t-shirt or a sweatshirt that had a college on it. And when we asked them, the black students asked them, it was like they had a holiday or some shit. And their parents had all coordinated that would be the weekend where they would go on college visitations and make a declaration of where they were going to go to school. So they're looking 6, 7 years ahead.
Exactly.
Whereas we're looking at what's going to happen later on today. Mentorship. We got to get our kids to understand the worth and utility of a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what has to be done. Lord have mercy. Doc, you have an extremely hard job. Extremely hard. When I was growing up, I used to think I wanted to be a teacher. But nah, that ain't something I would really want to do.
I mean, you know, and the thing is that just as children have, I would argue, the upper hand in their home, whereas they can call 911, they can go to school and say that you beat them or this and that. Same thing within a college classroom. You know, if the students do not like you, if you're not popular, they can sink your entire career with a bad evaluation. It's just what it is, you know. So it's a different gig, and you hope. And this is the thing I told one of my white colleagues this, and he said, "Wow, I've never had to do that. Never even thought to do it." I said, every day on day one when I walk into a classroom, I'm looking for me. For the one that has the requisite intelligence, the work ethic, the ability to be able to navigate, because I'm first generation college, the ability to navigate this thing and make it all the way to a PhD. I see that potential less and less now. You know, and there's a part of me that almost says I never see it anymore, because they're not serious about it. And as a result of that, you know, what can you do with that? They're just playing.
Exactly. Exactly. Good Lord. Yes. Yeah, the work that has to get done.
Yeah, I mean, it's Herculean, but the most frightening, it's a frightening thing, but it's also an encouraging thing, is who's going to replace us? Because, you know, we're nearing retirement age. We're looking at retirement. That whole thrust, we're the children of the Black Power era. When we go, who's going to take our place? When I was at the NCBS up in Baltimore again, I went and sat in on a panel. It was 4 young folk who were from Baltimore, and their panel was and the thing that made me go to the panel is they were talking about the crack epidemic. And I'm like, I'm gonna go hear this. And so I sat there and I listened to these young folk talk about something they researched. And I'm like, man, I lived through this. Okay. Which is a reminder that, you know, we're old. Okay. That they're researching the time when we came of age. But by the time they were done, I was encouraged. I said, yeah, y'all are the next ones. And I literally needed to be there to see that pipeline still has some young folk who are coming through, and they're gonna be able to take our spot. They're gonna be able to boogie when they get there, and we can leave, you know, with our heads held high, because we have reproduced ourselves. And that's kind of the rule within Black studies, that you can leave once you reproduce yourself. And I'm glad to say I've reproduced myself probably 10 to 15 times now. When I leave, I know Jasmine Parker is on the job. Carlton Singleton is on the job. Michael Clear is on the job. So I'm good there. I'm good. I'm just trying to make it to retirement. And
Most definitely.
I'll disappear.
Definitely. I want to go ahead and thank all of our viewers for tonight. Christine Williams, peace and blessings, Queen. We're glad you're with us. Who else? We got Twin Pyramid. Peace and blessings, big bro. We're glad you're here. Brother Willie Rivers. Peace and blessings, bro. We're glad you're here. Big brother Roy. Peace and blessings. We're glad you're here. And we thank everybody that's watching. We thank everybody that is commenting. And we ask you all please to like and share the video. Doc, you want to go to your closing comments?
Yeah, just same thing as always, man. Just happy to see another day to be able to be with the family and what have you. Yeah, just happy to be here, man. Just happy to be alive, happy to be sane.
Definitely. And so I'm going to say for our my closing that as we close tonight, and as we close tonight's analyst, Maynard Jackson, Marion Barry, which we didn't get to, but Carl Stokes, we have to move beyond just remembering these men. We have to understand the mechanics of how they fought. Malcolm X told us in 1964 that the ballot is like a bullet. If you don't aim at the target, you're not going to hit it. You're just making noise. Maynard Jackson aimed his at the banks. Marion Barry aimed his at the city's payroll to build a big black middle class. Carl Stokes aimed his at the very gates of segregation in Cleveland. Remember, for 2026, we have to target sovereignty. We have to target making our reality real as we do for self. Because if we sit around and keep waiting for somebody else to create a table, it will never be made. We have to get up and create our own table. This is what we are mandated to get done. We have to make sure that we have our own businesses that are protected. We have to make sure that they're funded, our people are protected, and we must wage a relentless war on anybody who seeks to dehumanize us, regardless of color. This is something that we cannot stand. Period, point blank. As you see, did you see the quote unquote tweet or whatever Donald Trump sent out on Tehran before the program?
That he finished with what, praise Allah?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this demon is going to get a lot of American soldiers killed unnecessarily.
Yeah, I mean, my thought, and one of the guys on CNN said this. He said he doesn't understand that, like the pilot, the F-15 pilot who was shot down. If they had captured him, he would have went through such hell as retribution for what this fool said. Well,
most definitely. But we look here. I've been, and I don't know why, but it's been in my spirit to watch Lyndon Johnson's time when he was in office and how he dealt with the Vietnam War and all of that. And it was really amazing to sit back and watch it. And it's like, damn, we're about to go through all this all over again.
Yeah, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, they're going to get slaughtered. These people, you're talking about knocking out their power and energy sources. They've existed for hundreds of years without that.
Exactly.
And it's going. I mean, come on, let's be very honest about it. There's a reason why you rarely see the son of a boxing champion be anything in the ring himself, because he was not raised up under those conditions. He was not, he's not, and you can't replicate that hardness that comes from that. You just simply can't. So you're gonna take some American soldiers who are used to living in a first world nation and training in a first world nation, put them in a third world nation against some people who know the terrain, know the land, and have been waiting for several decades for you to bring your ass on over there. And they've said that to you publicly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're not afraid of you.
Mm-mm. They are not. They are not. And you can you imagine, Doc, if Israel put IDF soldiers on the ground in Iran? Oh my God.
Mhm.
I think the Muslims would be coming from every country just to get over there and get a piece of that ass.
Well, but see, the thing is that, and this is the frightening thing,
Mm-hmm.
you can be activated wherever you at.
Mm.
You know, you
Mm.
activate yourself. This does not have to be a coordinated,
Oh,
as they
exactly.
put it, a sleeper cell
Exactly.
that gets activated. You get activated. Um, you're gonna get activated just simply because of your connection to your
Mm-hmm.
God and your religion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's the great. I was thinking about this about a week ago. The great saying of the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yes.
You can't. You're dealing with ideology. You're dealing with religion. You're dealing with belief, and you're going to unintentionally cause people to really double down. The next generation to double down upon that. Because
Mm-hmm.
how do you think those sons, those brothers of the little girls who were killed in that school, what do you
Mm-hmm.
think their motivation is?
Exactly.
Could you forgive that? Would you forgive that? Would you hope to forgive that? No.
Nope.
You would see, then you would burn with anger forever
Mm-hmm.
and plot a means of striking a blow of revenge.
Exactly.
So the activating is going to come from the heart. It's going to come from ideology.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And what he's doing is guaranteeing that the ideology there will stand strong for at least the next 200 years.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And Doc, I was thinking that all these countries knows that America was the country that used the atomic bomb twice on another country.
Mhm.
And I have associates at work that go to different countries and just chill. And I had one of them that went to Japan. Well, actually, a couple of them went to Japan. And I asked them, do they have a memorial for the two atomic bombs that were dropped on them by America? And they were like, yeah, they do. I said, did you feel unsafe walking among them, knowing that you're from the country that dropped atomic weapons on them? And they were like, not really. I never even thought about it. But, they were like, there was certain protests, there, especially around the American base in Japan, and they were saying that the Americans got to go, the Americans got to go. And I was like, wow, how many different countries have issues with what America does, with issues with what America has done to them? What is the real image of America in these different countries? It can't be that great.
I mean, somebody who traveled abroad, I can tell you for sure that you're immediately identified as an American, and there is a stigma attached to that. Being even in one of the center attractions of being in Ghana is the Kwame Nkrumah Center. It's this humongous botanical garden where they talk about the history of Ghana in it. You can get a tour guide who will talk to your group. And the guy who was doing our talk, he says, so you guys are American? And I said, yeah, but tell them the truth. And he said, the truth? I said, tell them the truth. And during his speech, he stops and he pivots and he points to the back of a center, and behind the center is this statue that has been decapitated. And he said, that statue there is of our first Black independent president, Kwame Nkrumah. The Ghanaian people went ahead and took the head away. And at that time, they eventually found it, but at that time, they had yet to recover the head. And he said, your government did that. The CIA, they came in and they convinced our people that Kwame Nkrumah was actually stealing from us and planning to re-enslave us. He said, and none of it was true. He said, our people we believed y'all. And so they led a coup. And not only did they, overthrow the government, they ran Kwame Nkrumah out of Ghana to Guinea. So the history of America abroad is not something to be necessarily proud of at all. And that's, you can only, and this is one of the problems that we have. And this is why I would advise people to watch newscasts from around the globe. There are no protests of American military bases occurring around the globe in the minds of Americans because you don't see them.
Exactly.
You only see what the military, what the U.S. media is showing you. And people are divided amongst Fox News and MSNBC. Look at some other stuff. Look at BBC. Look at some stuff internationally and see what they're saying. Because if you were to, and I'll use this as the quickest analogy that I can give, if you read an American textbook, George Washington is a hero. You read a British textbook, that same George Washington is a traitor. Read both and make the decision of who's correct.
Wow. That is very revealing, and I'm quite sure a lot of people don't even think about that. That he was a subject over there and fought that over there, fought that here to take away the rule from over there so that they could be free here. So yeah, definitely. Wow. So a lot to think about and understand. Boy, I tell you.
Most definitely.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, we're gonna go ahead and close out. We're in a little bit of overtime, 37 minutes over, but it was definitely well worth it. And as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm gonna kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
Peace.
Peace.
So you better get the message and get it straight.
You're gonna need some bridge work. It's simple as that.
Because we're living in judgment. We're living in implementation.